One of the most perplexing facts about this universe is all the while inflation happens around us and the costs of developing video games rises, the cost of purchasing a copy hasn't. One way a company could get you to spend more to recoup those costs is by making it more replayable, so you then buy more loot boxes. Not sure why I opened with this, we're not talking loot boxes. The replayability I wish to delve into is the kind that more benefits the consumer. The player. Mate, this isn't a business exam. The average game costs 60 quid and it's quite the investment, so ensuring you can squeeze every last ounce of fun is definitely top priority. Firstly, let's just clear up what I'm getting at exactly. This video will concern games that have various incentives to replay the same piece of content, and we won't be mentioning games that just have incredibly long campaigns, as you aren't really replaying anything. So with that cleared up, how does a video game go about being replayable? Well, Garden Warfare 2 said, screw it, here's like 100 characters to sink your teeth into. Yeah, this game has a lot of content to get through. I class this as replay value, not simply being more game, as what you do is continually play the same modes with them. The characters aren't the game, they're just how you experience the content. Anyway, 100 characters equals 100 unique ways to experience the game. A few of them are admittedly very throwaway, and a few of them certainly aren't throwaway, but the large majority of them, if you can get the hang of them, are pretty fun in their own right. I mean, you can easily lose quite a lot of time replaying the same game modes. Speaking of losing a lot of time replaying the same content, Crash Bandicoot. After beating a level in Crash Bandicoot, you have the option to go back and time trialing it. Completing the stage under a certain time nets you a relic from Sapphire to Platinum. You could very easily lose an afternoon chasing that one Platinum relic, only to then settle for Gold. These games also have purple gems for breaking every box in a given stage. There are also special gems in select levels for breaking every box without dying, and some of these Crash 1 special gems are a bit much. Sort of like the Crash Bandicoot 4 completion requirements. My goodness, this looks hell. Wait, hell. Alright, you knew this was coming. Doom Eternal to a lot of people is replayable because it's that good. The game is entirely focused on the gameplay and combat, which if you would like to know more about how to make a good combat system, see this video. Just going through and experiencing the game again is enough of an incentive for some people, myself included. On top of this, improving at the game and crossing off challenges is also a pretty large draw. Discovering new combos or strategies with weapons, Doom Eternal also offers a variety of game modes for those looking to alter the experience slightly. You could work your way up the difficulties, try extra life mode, or just sell your soul. Ultra Nightmare, which is Nightmare with permadeath. You have one life. If you die, you restart the entire game, and the thought of getting hours in and losing horrifies me.
Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you.
Also hidden throughout each Doom stage are little collectibles. This is much like the rebooted Wolfenstein games. The Old Blood, New Order and New Colossus all have hidden items to pick up, and unless you get them on your first try, you're likely coming back for them. There is a fourth game, but the less said about that game the better. Both the New Order and New Colossus has two versions of the story. Which version you get depends on who you save at the beginning of the game. The campaigns are very similar, only there's a different character in it. Major plot details are not altered at all. All the Call of Duties and most conventional multiplayer games for that matter get their replayability from the core gameplay loop and people just playing the same game modes over and over. I'm not going to sit here and claim I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Call of Duty, because I really don't. I've hardly touched these games. I do however know that people have poured hundreds of hours into these games just because they enjoy it. The gunplay, map design and customizable classes all seem to draw people in. I know Call of Duty has an abundance of weapon skins to grind for, with some having very high requirements. I do know a little bit more about Halo however, and all the armor pieces you can unlock and how that can drive replayability. But the fundamental reasons as to why someone would replay them is very similar to Call of Duty. These factors concerning Halo and Call of Duty reflect most multiplayer centered games. The replayability could stem purely from the moment-to-moment interactions you have with different players, as no two matches are alike. Leading on from this, I've seen people sink thousands of hours into multiplayer games even though from first glance those games don't seem very compelling. They just enjoy the gameplay and that alone is enough. Then you have the competitive games, the games with high skill ceilings. May I once again point you to this video if you want to know more. The short of it, people are likely to find these sorts of games replayable as they want to get better at them and improve their skill. And also the reasons stated for the previously mentioned multiplayer games also apply here. Another reason you could find yourself replaying a game is because it's fun with friends. You know, that whole thing. Yeah, well, ever heard of too much of a good thing? Dead by Daylight isn't a game. It's eternal damnation. So hopefully by talking about this game I can finally free myself of the curse that has bound me to it, or release an evil spirit comprised of nothing but negative emotion. To be honest, it's been a boring past few weeks, I wouldn't mind either. So how is this game replayable? It's not. So how could this game be considered replayable? Well, like previously stated, the core gameplay loop could mean some players would want to keep coming back to experience it. The game also has a progression system of sorts where you collect blood points to unlock perks and other items in a blood web. Each blood web is unique to each killer and survivor in the game, and upon reaching level 50 you can prestige. Then the cycle continues. There is a vast number of perks in this game, you can create a lot of builds to mix the game up. Also, speaking of those survivors and killers, there are a very large variety of them. Each of them mixing up the same activity you'll be doing, and there is only one activity. On the killer side, there is certainly room for a player to increase their skill level, especially with a killer like the nurse. So for as much as I fear the arrival of an evil spirit, this game pretty much combines all previously talked about methods of replayability in games. Now another mention of this game, and it's to the guillotine. Now, I've got one last way for a game to be replayable, one that doesn't really have a specific example, and that's replaying a game because it means something to you personally. For example, I have a very unhealthy obsession with Wolfenstein: The New Order. I have seen everything this game has to offer at least 5 times, and beyond completing both timelines, there really isn't a reason to replay, but I'll still happily sit through a 6th, 7th or even 8th playthrough. There isn't any rhyme or reason as to why you find yourself replaying these games, you just can't get enough of them. Alright, so I've covered a decent variety of ways in which a game could be replayable. Obviously the last point I made is impossible to manufacture, but if you're a game dev watching these videos for tips on game design, then I pray for your career. But for the developers, the rest of the points made are easy enough to recreate. Providing loads of characters to allow unique spins on gameplay, offering vast progression systems that allow the player to sink hundreds of hours, crafting the perfect combat system that lets the player spend hours improving, or in a desperate attempt to create a replayable game, you screw up. We're talking about replayability. I thought it was necessary to talk about the times that developers tried to force it and failed. Hard. Plus I've already bought this copy of Anthem for this video, ruining my beloved game collection, so we might as well. After booting it up I discovered that yeah, this game sucks, but I really don't see how it's different from other looter shooters. Outriders for example seems indistinguishable from Anthem gameplay wise. On top of that, Anthem's movement system was fluid and felt pretty nice to control, whereas Outriders had nothing of note, it's just a boring generic looter shooter. So what I'm trying to say is I think Anthem is better than Outriders and is not in fact the worst game I've ever played, but I digress. Replayability is forced by having the player spend ages grinding for loot, making the top tier stuff hard to get. Let me rephrase that. By making the top tier stuff take ages to get and forces the player to spend hours grinding to unlock the good stuff. It's a very artificial and lazy way to encourage the player to play more. Unlocking things doesn't feel satisfying because what you unlock fundamentally does the exact same thing as the weapons you already have, but just does more damage. Actually getting to that point isn't great either because you fight through waves of enemies with no variation other than the fact they hit more damage and have more health. So the journey and the destination sucks. There aren't many ways to put a spin on the gameplay either. The combat system isn't very interesting, the progression is awful, and I really don't see how someone could gain a personal attachment to this game because there isn't anything to get attached to. Flying is pretty fun though. Anthem was planned to be a live service game, meaning they plan to update this game for years to come, and so replayability was vitally important. However, it seems they tried so hard to make it replayable, they forgot to make it fun or interesting.